With the rise of Red Bull athletes, daredevil YouTubers, and social distancing, interest in mountain biking has skyrocketed in recent years. Mountain biking trails are popping up all over the place, providing ample opportunities for anyone with a ton of money to spend on fancy bikes, plenty of locations where they could break their bones. As a sport with an echelon of elite-level athletes, most people are used to seeing mountain biking in the light of dramatic drops and massive jumps, dubstep edits, and pit viper sunglasses. Another side of mountain biking, however, is the quiet solitude of exploring trail systems surrounded by nothing but the sounds of nature and the rhythmic clicking of free hubs. It's like a peaceful hike through nature, but faster, so you get to see more. Hi, my name is Majegs, and I recommend video games for busy people. If you haven't been here before, in each video I give a rundown of a particular game and explain why I think it's a good game for busy people. So without further ado, let's talk about why Lonely Mountains Downhill is a good game for busy people. First and foremost, though, I would just want to give a thank you to my viewer at vdre6741 for the recommendation. They left a comment suggesting this game, I found it on Game Pass, and I'm so glad that they brought it up, because it's a blast. I had a great time with it. So if you have any ideas for games I should try, please leave them in the comments. I assure you I read all of them. In Lonely Mountains, you get the privilege to explore 4 different mountains with a battery of downhill bike tracks carved into each one. The mountains themselves are beautifully crafted, each crossing a number of different biomes, windswept peaks, roaring waterfalls, and muddy forests, to name a few. Each trail can be ridden to completion, start to finish, in less than 5 minutes. So even though they're teeming with exploration potential, they aren't vast, expansive levels that stretch for eons. That's my first point for busy people. It's absolutely a game where you can sit down and enjoy just 1 or 2 rides, because it's easy to get in, finish a level, and then get back out. You don't have to carve out an hour, you don't have to be concerned if something important comes up. You could literally play through an entire level in the amount of time it takes for the oven to preheat. Mountain biking has a saying, pre-ride, re-ride, free ride. It means that when you first approach a trail, you should take it slowly so you can get the lay of the land. On your second ride, you know it's coming, so you can start experimenting and riding a little bit faster. Then on your third ride, you've already ridden it twice, so you're ready to go full send. You might find yourself following the same mentality in Lonely Mountains. The game provides a set of objectives that are fairly consistent. The first mission on a new trail is usually just to get to the finish, so you're liable to follow the pre-ride mentality. Follow the obvious trail that's clearly designated on the ground. Avoid drops and exploration as you conservatively wind your way down the mountain to get your bearings. The follow-up mission tends to be finish with a limited number of crashes. At this point you've played the level, so you're probably fairly convinced that you can start increasing your speed. You might start cutting corners and taking shortcuts to beat your previous time to get to the bottom faster, though not too fast because you don't want to, get in too many accidents. The third mission you normally get is finish within a certain time. Crash as many times as you want as long as you get to the bottom in time. That's when you're free riding, taking massive risks and crossing huge chasms to shave tons of time off your best. And that's where the real magic of Lonely Mountains lies. The maps are designed to provide not just primary and secondary paths, but tons of little shortcuts and offshoots that can only be discovered by experimentation. And I will say here, as my editors point out, you could just start by going full send, and if that's what you want to do, then the mountain's your oyster, my friends. And that sort of leads me to my second point here. One of the best design choices for a game like this that I've maybe ever seen. Each trail is divided into sections. They have checkpoints, and once you cross that checkpoint, when you crash, you reset back to that spot. However, instead of continuing the stopwatch when you crash, the game resets your clock back to there as well. So if you find an awesome path with a huge, high-risk gap jump and don't get it on your first try, you can keep trying and you won't be losing valuable time trial times. Now, I hear you. Checkpoints doesn't really seem like it's that big of a deal. And I'll just juxtapose it with some other systems in similar games. In a lot of titles, crashing nets you a time penalty, so you might get an additional 5 seconds every time you crash. In some games, the clock keeps running even though you're being sent backwards anyway. So the result is that one wrong step and one crash often leads to having to start over from the beginning, so you find yourself starting over, hitting that same spot, crashing because you didn't have time to practice it at all, and then having to do it all over again, over and over and over. Instead, with Lonely Mountains, you get to try just that section over and over and over again until you get it right. Now, some people like to practice and they'd like to get those perfect zero fail runs. Not me. I think it's a really cool way to encourage exploration and experimentation without punishing you for not immediately succeeding. And as a busy person, it means you don't have to replay the same level over and over to learn exactly where all the little tricks are. You can cruise down the stuff you know, and when you hit a new area, you can explore and experience it without sacrificing progress. It's a really small design decision that has significant impacts on the experience and overall accessibility, and I can't celebrate the designers enough for that choice. Okay, great. We've now covered why the game is great for busy people because it can be reduced down to a play session the length of a commercial break, and because it provides an excellent design direction when encouraging exploration. The last point I'll touch on is the feeling of the game, the vibe. It's right in the name, Lonely Mountains. The solitude of nature surrounds every aspect of the game. From the sound design to the minimalistic graphics, the whole point is to put you in the shoes of someone experiencing a solo trail ride on the mountain. If you had a hectic day, a stressful meeting, or even had to go grocery shopping, which I contend can be just as, if not more stressful than some meetings, then the whiplash of a quiet mountain ride might be just what you need. There's nothing quite like riding along the edge of a mountain, hearing nothing but the wind blowing across the rocks. In the same vein, riding through a forest, hearing bugs, birds, and leaves singing the sounds of nature is a soul-rejuvenating experience. Now, of course, I'll concede that this is a video game and doesn't perfectly capture those feelings, but I'll be darned if it isn't an excellent stand-in for the real thing. Now, recently I've started posting these companion videos, just 15 to 20 minutes of me playing the game I recommend, so if this recommendation has sparked your interest, I encourage you to head over there and check out that video. All in all, I'm giving Lonely Mountains Downhill 5 sick nasty roosts out of 5 sick nasty roosts. Highly recommended.